The house was too quiet. My family had just left for a trip, and I was alone. I didn't mind, just another night of work and an empty house. It was a minor inconvenience. A few hours later, I was sitting in the living room while a loud smash echoed through the house. My heart jumped, it sounded like glass breaking. I hesitated before standing up, every step toward the noise making my stomach twist. I walked into the room and froze. My senior picture, which was framed and shattered into 100 pieces, was lying in the center of the floor. The strange thing? My picture had been tucked behind my siblings' photos on the shelf. The other frames were untouched, perfectly in place, as if nothing had happened. I felt a cold chill crawl up my spine. How did it fall? Why did it fall with such immense force? If it had simply tipped over, it should have landed near the shelf, maybe even knocked the other pictures down with it. But no, it was flung across the room. I carefully stepped closer, my pulse pounding in my ears. The silence after the crash felt thick, like the house itself was holding its breath. I didn't want to clean it up. I didn't even want to touch it. A sick feeling told me this wasn't an accident. Someone wanted my picture gone, and I had no idea why. I worked the graveyard shift at Quick Mart alone for 8 hours. When I started, a customer told me about an old employee who died of a stroke 2 years ago. Later, my coworker showed me the man's jacket, which was still stored in the back room. He warned me that weird things happened during the night shift. At first, it was small things, cooler doors popping open, cans falling. All explainable. But one night, while scrolling Reddit, I heard a scuffling noise from the other side of the store. I looked over and saw a ramen packet lying near the sugar, 5 feet away from its container. It appeared as though someone had dragged it away. Curious, I went full investigator mode. I set up my phone to record, hoping to catch something. 30 minutes passed. Nothing. Another 30. Still nothing. I gave up, picked up my phone, and got back to work. 5 minutes later, the scuffling noise came again. My heart pounded. The next morning, my manager came in and casually asked how my night was. I hesitated, then gave her a knowing look. Do you ever hear weird stuff when you work? She let out a small sigh, her smile fading. Yeah, it's him. Our old employee. She didn't joke, didn't laugh. She just looked at me, serious and tired. You will get used to it, she said. We all do. Then she walked away like it was nothing. She acted as if it were an ordinary occurrence. I stood there, my skin crawling, and I realized that the entity that had been moving objects during the night was beyond my comprehension. And I still had 7 more hours alone in the store. When I was 12, I stayed home alone for the first time. I stayed up late playing games and watching TV. Around 3 to 4 a.m., I decided to sleep in the lounge. As I lay there, I heard the apartment lift moving. At that hour, it felt strange. Then, the lift started stopping on every single floor. My heart pounded as it got closer. 9th floor. 8th floor. The doors opened. I held my breath, silence. No footsteps, no sound, nothing. I strained my ears, waiting for someone had to be there, right? But the hallway outside my door remained eerily quiet. The lift just sat there, doors open, as if waiting for something to step out. Minutes passed, my skin crawled. Why wasn't the lift moving? Was someone just standing there, listening? Watching? Then, without a sound, the doors slid shut. The lift continued upward, stopping at each floor like before. Who or what called it? And if no one stepped out, who was inside? I was in my garden on my day off from school. It was still outside and the air was quiet. That's when I saw my friend. He was working in his yard. He moved quickly, almost frantically. It was clear to me what he was hiding when I got closer. It was a little house. Not any playhouse, but the one his daughter has. She died in a terrible accident months ago. Since then, their house has been dark and quiet. But now he was shaking and sweating while he dug dirt over her favorite toy. His wife yelled at him from the back door. "Please stop. Come in." Her voice was scared and almost beseeching. But he didn't pay attention to her. He dug again, but this time faster. He said, "It's got to go. It's got to go." His voice was broken and he sounded almost scared. He stopped after that. He looked up at the window on the second floor of their house, which was in his daughter's old room. I looked where he looked. I saw something for a split second. A shadow. A small person. Looking at. It felt like my chest got tight. I locked my door as I ran inside. They were gone in the morning. The dollhouse was also gone. But late at night, I hear little feet moving in my room sometimes. There's something wrong with my mind, I tell myself. I know better though. I was in bed, about to drift off, when I heard a low, faint hissing noise coming from outside. It was so quiet, I almost thought I imagined it. I brushed it off. Probably the wind. But then, I heard scratching sound. Something clawed at my sliding glass door. My heart pounded. I sat up, frozen, listening. Another long, slow scrape against the glass. Something was out there. I bolted upright, grabbing the first object I could locate, a heavy metal pipe lying around from work. I crept downstairs, every step slow and deliberate, trying not to breathe too loudly. The scratching didn't stop. It was waiting. Reaching the door, I hesitated before looking out. My hands shook as I clutched the pipe tighter. Then, I turned my gaze toward the glass. And there they were. A pair of glowing, green eyes staring straight at me. They didn't move. Just burned through the darkness, unblinking. I felt every hair on my body rise. My chest tightened. Then, something hit the door. I jumped back, my breath hitching. I couldn't take it anymore. I lunged for the porch light, flicked it on, and finally saw the terrifying entity lurking outside. It was the neighbor's cat. The little bastard just sat there, tail flicking, like nothing happened. A cat nearly gave me a heart attack. One Friday night, my junior year of high school. Things were winding down, and I was getting ready for bed. I realize I have to get up for a piss. On my way back from the bathroom, I feel a presence down the hall. The lights were off. I couldn't tell what it was, but I just felt like someone was standing there in the corner. Anyway, it freaked me out a bit, and I turned and quickly got back to bed. As I am lying in bed not looking at porn on my phone, I hear some scratching at my door, followed by a few taps and the sound of movement. At first I thought it was one of our dogs, so I shrugged it off. Then I heard the beeping noise. Sounded a lot like a wristwatch or some kind of beeper. Naturally, being the paranoid person I am, I grab one of the cookery knives I keep at my bedside table and hide it under the covers quickly. The feeling of someone being outside dissipated as the sounds of movement subsided, and the scratching stopped. Basically went to sleep with a knife at my side under the covers. It was difficult to go to sleep that night. The following day, I inquired about it with my parents, and they were unaware of its nature. Since it was 2 a.m., neither of them was awake, and the door scratch spot was too high for our ankle biters. I still have no idea what the fuck it was.